Hello everybody. Today I'm going to show you how I tie my splinted chamois cinder worm pattern. In the hook I have a Gamakatsu C14S blowboat hook, and I'm using Danville's flat wax nylon. For my splint I'm going to use a very stiff piece of monofilament. The reason I need a splint is the chamois is so flexible it would wrap around the bend of the hook constantly during a cast. So I'm going to I flatten the front part of the mono out, and I'm going to wrap over that and attach it to the top of the hook. And I did make a little ridge with a lighter at the front of it, so it won't pull out from under my thread wraps. Now this is the splint that's going to keep the chamois away from the bend of the hook. Here's what I have for chamois. It's the 100% chamois. I bought it at, I believe, Auto Body Shop. And with a straight edge and a razor blade, I cut them into strips. Now what I've done here is fold it over itself so that it's going to extend, both sides will extend past the end of the splint. Take a pair of scissors and do a horizontal cut, little cut in the chamois. I'm going to slide it over the eye and pull it back to where my thread is. And it's here that I'm going to attach it with some good firm, tight thread wraps. 2 or 3 right in the same spot. And I'll trim off any bulky sections that I don't like. Now I'm just going to anchor it, create a little bit of a taper. This is about as simple as it gets. Next thing I'm going to do is put a head on this fly, and I'm going to use some dark olive small chenille. And because there's a little bit of a gap where my mono ended there, I'm just going to fix it there to try to fill that gap so it doesn't jump off of there. I'm going to wrap up and then wrap back down, creating a tapered head that will, up at the top where I am now, be equal to the width of the chamois. And I'm just going to wind back down. The cinder worms, when you see them in the water, have a darker head section, and they also have a dark section at the tail end of them. And the midsection is a pinkish, reddish, fleshy colored. So now that I'm done with my head, I just do a couple turns with finish and tie this off. As far as the tying with thread, that part of the fly is done. Now I'm going to reposition my hook and the vise, and you can see my splint that's going to be in the middle of the 2 sections of chamois. It's almost like a peeled banana right now. I'm going to use this stuff called tear mender. It's made for this, fabric and leather, joining them together. Dries in 3 minutes, remains flexible, it's non-toxic. First time I heard about it was researching the MAOL leeches that they use out west, mole leeches. So I put a little bit on my bodkin, and I'm just measuring right now, so you can't see that, but I'm going up to just beyond the length of my splint. I want to make sure I put a thin coat. If you follow the directions on the tear mender, you just put a thin coat on it. And then I'm going to take the other half put a thin coat of the Terramender on that half. This is a waterproof cement. It goes on like Elmer's glue white, but it does dry clear. I use it for a lot of applications in fly tying where I want body to remain flexible. And if you have any left over, you can just put a little bit on your monofilament splint. The end of that monofilament, I did put a lighter to it. I didn't want any sharp edges that may cut through this later on. So now I'm just going to bring up one half, and you can see where I've extended beyond it, the splint, maybe 1/8 of an inch. And then I'm going to bring up the other half to meet it. And now all you have to do is simply try to get them in the center and just squeeze. And that Terramender is made for exactly this, joining two fabrics together. And you can see what we've created here. A nice wiggly bodied, whatever you want to call it. You can make an egg sucking leech. I make egg sucking leeches like this. Put a couple turns of a bright chenille in the front of it. And if you have any overlapping, just trim it. And you can see our splint right in the middle of that. And that's going to end right about here, and it will keep that tail from wrapping around the end of that hook during the cast. And you can make any design you want on your tail. You can have it come to a point. You can cut it on an angle. You can V it out. You can do whatever you want. Here's what final product would look like. I colored it with a Sharpie pen. And this one actually has ostrich roll to the head. There's the front profile. And from the top, very slender. Ton of action. Nothing moves more than chamois. When it gets wet, it gets so slimy, it's like an eel. Now I plan on using some for bass, or there's an egg sucking leech. I colored with a Sharpie olive, and then I used some brown dots on it. And I put a little bit of 2 turns of ultra chenille in the front of it. And the back is real flexible. When it gets wet, you just won't believe the action on this. And here's one that I put a cone in the front of it with a mono weed guard, a couple wraps of lead behind that cone. So this thing, when I strip that, will definitely entice some largemouth that are in some heavy cover. I can't wait to try this one. I haven't decided what color I'm going to go with it. I might just leave it natural, because when the chamois gets wet, it does darken up quite a bit. Gets to a nice tan color. But I could see myself making a nice purple egg sucking leech out of these also. I do make these just the opposite, with a flat bodied worm, and I'm going to make another video. There's a little bit different technique to it. I'm going to show you that also. But I hope you enjoyed this technique, and I hope you try it.